Hey y'all, it's Melissa. Welcome to Messy Missy Creates. I got tagged in a video series using the hashtag My Journal Journey, and it's hosted by the Crafty Bookworm at Bookworm's Buddy. I got tagged by Laura at the Half-Ass Crafter, and I'm tagging Kari at the Concrete Butterfly. So what this is it's a list of questions, and while you do a craft, hopefully, it's going to be hard to craft and show you journals at the same time, but I'm going to try to do both. And anyway, there's a list of questions that I'm going to answer regarding or about my journaling journey, how I started making journals and who inspired me, that sort of thing. So let me clear this off. I'm going to leave that right there. Let me get these journals out of the way, and I'll show you the progression of how I got started. And the very first question is, when did you first start making journals? Show your first journal if you still have it. Well, I'm going to show you this one because this was my first junk journal. Now, yeah, I think it was my first journal. There is a slim chance that this was my first journal. I cannot remember exactly. And that doesn't really matter now, does it? I do not have room for all these journals beside me, though. Okay, let me get started. Let me tell you a little bit about this one, and then I'll show you the other one. Now, I have not done a whole lot in this one, but I made this one. It was my gift to myself, and I made it in, I think, 2019. Maybe the end of 2019. Yeah. Somewhere it asks you when you started, I think. So anyway, I will get back to the questions in just a minute. This was my first junk journal. I love the old, I want to say retro. This looked very retro. I love the old school books, and this was obviously language skills and elementary education. I love the size. I fell in love with this book the second I saw it and felt it, because you know, if you make journals or you journal a lot, you know you know what you love when you feel it. So I just used what I had at the time, scrapbook paper and book pages, more scrapbook paper, some ledger paper. This was a menu at Denny's. I think we had gone to Denny's that morning for breakfast. And I started using this for holding birthday cards, because I like to keep them. And yeah, this was a new stamp set I got from May Made It. Actually, I think I made this in February 2020 or February in 2019. I can't remember. But it was obviously around Valentine's Day and my birthday, which are in the same month. And this was cards from my husband, the one that I had made him that year for Valentine's. This was a little thing that came off of, he loves to play that claw game where he wins me a stuffed animal. Anyway, so I haven't done a whole lot with it. I mean, I have a lot of cards that I still need to put in there. And my brother is very sentimental, one of them. He sends me the sweetest birthday cards. Anyway, so that's what I have. I used this envelope in here and had some extra like journaling space if I wanted to actually write in it. So there's that. I used a little bit of fabric, a little bit of rickrack, and I made 3 signatures. And look, they're relatively straight. So I don't know that I've done a straight signature since then. But anyway, that's why I'm thinking, because if I made that one in 2020, I'm pretty sure I made this one in 2019. This is not, however, a junk journal. This is more of an art journal. And let's see, let me go back to this one for a second. Because the second question is, did someone inspire you to start making journals? On both accounts, I was very inspired initially and still by, it used to be Gina at the Rebookery. Now it is Stellar J Studios. She changed the name of her channel. And she really, when I first started making journals or wanting to journal, I wanted to get into bullet journaling because I wanted a planner. This all started because I wanted a planner one year, I think in 2018. And every planner that I would get, because I thought that would organize my life, and it did not. Anyway, so every one that I would get, it wouldn't have the right number of pages. What if I put something in there and I don't like it, whatever. Well, the answer to that was start to learn to make books, and then I could bind my own. So that is one of the questions, is what do you enjoy the most about making journals? I can put in the number of pages that I want. I like the freedom of the size of the books, how many pages are in it. If I don't like it, or I put something in there that I can rebind it if I want. I don't want to, but I could if I wanted to. So that's kind of my reasoning. Whoops, I just dropped a journal. So anyway, this one actually was inspired by Karen Campbell at Amazing Art School. I have been a student of hers for a while, and this is made out of a cereal box. And yeah, she made one, I think it flipped up like this, but she made an art journal out of cereal box, and I'm like, aha, I can do that too. This is painted canvas, and yeah, and here's the back. So it's just cereal box with masking tape. I love the texture. I was really into mixed media art at the time, and so I really do believe this was my first journal. But I don't know. It was close. I made them very similar. I don't like this collage. I didn't like it when I was doing it, and so I stopped. So this one I filled with a bunch of plans, calendars. I just had a little fun plan with napkin collage and paint and stuff like that. I have not done much in this. This was one of those magazine images where you draw over it, that sort of thing. This is just kind of like roll off. And anyway, so what it does now, you know, I realized that in order to do art the way that I wanted to do them, I needed some big paper, and I needed to be able to unbind it if I wanted to, and I needed to be able to just not feel like it was all so precious. And that was what Gina at the Rebookery at the time, it was the Rebookery, that's what Gina showed me, is if you use papers that are not precious to you, you're not as afraid to mess them up. So this journal, though there's not much in it, I did 4 signatures, and I did 1 traveler style, or I think that's what you call it, where I could take the pages in and out. So I had the freedom to add more pages to it if I wanted to. And anyway, so now what this journal does is it holds my art, or some of it. Okay. So, and while I'm here, I'll just show you. This is how I got started. That one's horrible. I did some Dina Wakley classes. This was like the first face I think I ever drew, and that was off of a Dina Wakley tutorial. I had set the ink bottle down, and it made these circles, so I'm like, oh, those look like angel bodies or angel heads. So you know how that goes. And this was off of a Dina Wakley class that I did, that we drew the bird and painted it. Here are some. This was like one of my first ones, and I would take junk mail and draw and paint over it. And so here is another. This was off of one of Karen Campbell's classes or tutorials. No, it was one of her classes. This was, I did Can't Make Believe with Rebecca Hoot. And so I drew that. And so I just have some other mixed media art. Actually, I think this may have been my first one. And it's off of that same junk mailer flyer things. So anyway, that's what this journal does now, is it holds some of my art. And let me put this back, and then I'll show you. I'm not going to go through every one of them because we're supposed to be doing a craft while we're doing this. But my desk is not big enough to hold big journals and a craft. So, we went through the inspiration. What is my journal style? I don't know how to answer that, to be honest with you. I will skip ahead to the question about, if you make a soft covered journal, what material do you use? Well, this one I made shortly after I made those other two, and I made this out of an old pair of jeans. And I did do a little slow stitch. This is some vintage material. And I had the pocket here so that I could hold my pens or whatever I wanted. And yeah. So I made this one out of some jeans. I even have like one of those big clips. I liked the pocket there because, like I said, it holds my pens and things like that if I want it. Now again, this one is strictly, ooh, and that has stretched out seriously. Can you see that? So I can pull the pages in and out of this one just like I can the other one. What is your journal style? Let's go back to that one. I really don't know. If I had to guess, I would say clean and colorful. Which is kind of funny considering my name is Messy Missy. I don't necessarily do the, grunge is not necessarily my style. Probably a mix between a little bit, I like the look of the shabby. I probably do a little bit of that, but if I had to compare myself to one of the common styles, I would probably say it's maybe a little more boho. I don't know. You can tell me what you think after I show you the rest of the journals. So somewhere in this process of making art journals for myself, because that was kind of where I started. I gave up the planner thing and went to art journals. Then I went to junk journals. And then now what I do the most of is more of a daily journal or a monthly. You know, I have a journal for each month and I journal in it daily. So these were some of the first ones. I love composition books, and I started, let's see, let me find a good one. This one's not even finished. That's my style. I like to start journals and not finish them. So I'm reaching, pardon me. Oh, here's another art journal. I altered this book. I didn't bind it. This was probably one of my favorite art journal pages that I did. So there's the altered book journal, right? Where you take out some pages, you glue some pages together. They make great art journals. So this is one I started. I found Elizabeth at Never Hopeless by Elizabeth. And I really liked, and this is not a good example. See, this is a good example of, I love making backgrounds, my inky backgrounds. See the colorful? And then I don't finish. This was in one that was already done, you know, it was a pre-existing journal. I used some stencils and some wrapping paper, that sort of thing. But somewhere in there, I discovered Elizabeth's older style of using comp books and doing kind of like a faux Bonici style. I'm trying to find, this might be a good example. So like, I liked the colorful backgrounds, but you kind of section off. You start with the date, and I was just doing a single page for each day at that time. This happened to be a day we were going to have a hurricane. We already did have a hurricane. So I discovered this kind of faux Bonici style, and I really liked that. This was in 2020. I know that because that's when Hurricane Sally hit. And so I have my garden stuff. I like this. I still love this. But a little bit at a time, I evolved into not using the composition books because I didn't like having to glue the pages together. So I chose to start using, well, this one I made out of Amazon packaging, and it's gloriously crinkly, and I use pages in it. Now there's a story behind this journal, and I probably will never use this journal because this was the journal that I had made right before I became paralyzed. And then I couldn't use the journal because I was paralyzed on my right side, which is my dominant hand. And yeah, I never got to use this journal, but this is kind of a, you know, placeholder for me because I had to stop after this one. I had to stop for about 1.5 years. So I probably will never get around to using that journal. It just sort of, you know, it just sort of is, it's frozen in time, so to speak. Oh, here was another comp book. And I started using like flips and, you know, some different things in it, pockets, so on and so forth. Tags. Oh, that's a tuck. Here's the tag. Okay, see, the tuck just looked like a tag. But I really love this style, and I still do. I just don't know what to call that style. This was one I had done, you know, just out of an old Christmas book. I did not finish. This is a picture of me and my daughter. And yeah, I didn't get to do a whole lot in that journal either, as I had just had hand surgery. Yeah, there's always a reason, right? So now, this is my current style. Somewhere in probably 21 or 20, I came back to journal making and journaling full-time last year, which was in January of 23. These I did before I got sick. So I started making them out of cracker boxes or Triscuit boxes. And then now this is kind of how I do them. I still use the Triscuit boxes. And this is my most recent April journal. And I just used the Triscuit box. I used some binding tape or fabric tape of some sort. And it's still kind of a little bit like the Fauxbonichi, but not quite. I don't use the header, and I mean, I use, now I make my own printables sometimes. Not every month, but I do some. And this is kind of what I'm doing these days. And it's a fun daily representation or pictorial illustrative style representation of what you did in your day, or what I did in my day. And so, yeah, I do write. I write some details and still use flips and tucks and so on and so forth, and envelopes. And so I don't know that this is technically junk journal style. The one that I made for May is a little bit more, it's like this. And let's see, let me go through. This was March. I'm bad about labeling mine. So, you know, I make some fun borders. These are more of my printables. And yeah, this is just kind of what I'm doing these days. And this one I made for myself for this current month, May. And I'm still doing the same thing, except I used a combination of scrapbook paper, old book pages, and these are my painty papers, and a menu, and, you know, some of these old recipe cards just for extra little pieces. So I'm incorporating slowly a little bit of junk journal style back into my daily journal. But for the most part, my daily journals, I like them. I'm not going to use the word clean because that's not really colorful is what I would use. I love color. I love, let me see what the questions are. Let's see. Yeah, so that was all about my junk journal style. So I really don't know what to call it. If you know what to call it, please let me know, because I don't. It's not grungy. It's not vintage. It's not, I don't know that I would call it contemporary. It's not minimalist. I really don't know what to call it. The colors may be a little leaning on the boho side, and this is not what I would call shabby either. Now, if I were to make a junk journal, here's another junk journal that I made at the beginning of 23, again, out of a basic reader. I love the old school books. If I'm going to make a junk journal, then I do like the vintage, the coffee dyed papers and things like that, the old school books. And I had made this one just to do some prompts. And you see, again, I did not get very far. But I am still going to use this as a collage book. I just didn't finish those prompts. So the next question is, do you use a theme to get started on a journal? Well, these days, my only theme is probably the month. And what that month looks like to me, as far as like this, I can look at this one and I know that this was probably May. Yeah, May or August, because that's the colors that I think of when I think of that month. So yeah, I think this may have been August. But, I use pictures from menus. I use clip art. I use magazine images. I use other people's printables. I use my printables. And this was, let's see. There's a question on here about, do you enjoy participating in prompt-inspired projects? Yes, I do. This is an example of one. Last year, Allison at AJ's Inspired Life, she and I hosted the Inspired to Create Challenge, prompt challenge all year. Well, actually, I think we started in February. And I was going to look to see if I could find another one. So each week, at some point I started doing them in the back. Each week we did some kind of challenge using, this is one of them. We chose a word for the week, and we used the letters of the words for, like, if the word was summer, we'd find a prompt that started with S. We'd find a prompt that started with U. The playlist is I have a playlist for it. And then for the most part, for me, it turned out looking like collages like this. And then I discovered a love for collage and like glue booking. So now I've opened up that can of worms. So I do like, this is a lot of Tim Holtz stuff, and I like that look. I still don't call that vintage. That may to me look a little bit more shabby, but I like a lot of it. It depends on what I'm doing. How's that? So maybe I have a variety of styles. So the theme is, now if I were to do I would do a garden journal, and I've talked about doing that. And if I were to do that, that would be a theme, because that journal would be nothing but gardening. I do have plans to make a recipe journal. That would be a theme. But for the most part, I don't use a theme. Other than because I do my daily, I make a journal for April. I make a journal for May. And then within that journal, I do the days of that month. So I am, I'm looking at my questions. I keep misplacing them. Okay, so while I'm talking about the rest of it, I'm going to make something. And I hopefully have already posted this video by the time you see this particular video. I hope that you've already seen the video I put out on this. I saw, this is one of Roxy Creations challenges, making these like paper sacks. And it's real simple. I'm not going to explain what I'm doing necessarily. I'm just going to be making them while I talk. So, how long does it take me to make a journal? Well, these little monthly journals take me about an hour, maybe 2. That's including videoing them. So they don't take that long at all. You know, I already have, it might take a little longer if I factor in the planning time, like what paper I'm going to use, that sort of thing. I would say an hour to 2 hours for those monthly journals that I make. And for a junk journal, well, there's some of them I've had kind of in the works for a couple of years because I'm just collecting stuff, like the recipe journal. I've been collecting recipe books. I've been collecting all the things to go with it. And I'm going to fold this one down just a little bit more. And yeah, so it's hard for me to do a project and not be talking about the project that I'm doing. Isn't that weird? Okay, so what else am I doing? Let's see. What is the first thing you do when starting a journal? Well, I would say the first thing is decide what kind of journal I'm making. Like, what is it for? I don't make journals just to make them. Does that make sense? I have not gotten into the making of the journal just for the sake of making a journal. I probably should because I have enough stuff to do them, but I haven't sold them or anything like that. This was the closest thing because I made it specifically to do collages. That was the closest thing to a just because journal that I've ever made. And the rest of them have a purpose, like, you know, a monthly journal or recipe journal, garden journal, that sort of thing. So I guess I do kind of use a theme, but I don't do like, this is a butterfly journal. This is a, you know what does that make sense? So if I do this right, this is going to be like a little paper sack pocket. So the next question is, but the other first thing I do is probably decide on the cover, because to me, the cover dictates what's in it. For example, if I use an old book, to me, my eye expects to see kind of older stuff in it, right? If I use scrapbook paper, you know, pretty scrapbook paper on the cover, then to me that tells me that what's inside that journal is a little newer or a little cleaner, for lack of better words. Simpler. Not sure I'm using the right words, but we're going to roll with it anyway. That's not what I meant to do, but I did it anyway. Okay. So, if I had my corner rounder, I would round these little corners. When Rachel at Roxy Creations did it, she had a pair of like deckled scissors or a deckled cutter, and she deckled that and made it look like a bag, and I put it on upside down. This is why I can't do crafts and talk about something else. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get that off because art glitter glue dries very quickly. Okay, so if you make a soft cover journal, what materials do you use? The material, like I said, in that one, I use jeans, I use material, I use packaging. I don't make that many soft cover journals though. So I Let's see if I can do this one straight. You would think that I would be used to crafting and talking because I make videos, right? Yeah. Yep. Okay. But I apparently only can do it if I'm talking about the project that I'm doing right at the moment. And I don't know why that one's so much longer than that one. I obviously did not cut those right. Let's try this one. Let's see. No. Why are my pages so much bigger than my... Well, I didn't do something right. Okay. So... let's do, what style cover do you prefer to make? Okay, well, that's going to answer that question. I prefer a hard cover or a slightly hard cover. It can be bendable, but I'm not one of the ones that really likes one of those floppy journals. Okay, this is the top. Let's get this on straight this time. Yeah, I obviously cut my papers wrong. Let me whack some of that off. Because I was cutting them in a hurry yesterday trying to get ready to make this video so that I could leave town. And I am flying out in a couple of hours. And yet I'm here making a video and folding paper and making upside down pockets because my mind is on packing, not on crafting. Okay, anyway, back to the questions. Do you use ephemera you get in a kit or do you prefer to make your own? I don't necessarily use ephemera like a journal making kit where you would print up all the papers and all of that. I've never done that. Not saying that I wouldn't, I've just never done that. So what I do use is printables, which I guess is kind of the same thing. And I use other people's printables and I make some of my own. But it's not so much the papers. I use my own papers, right? So, and honestly, there's some that I would use. I don't like to print that much. I print a lot as it is, and I can only imagine what the people, well, I guess they have that automatic printing ink stuff, and I just haven't gotten on board with that yet. So maybe if I would do that, then I would not feel like ink was so precious and expensive. So anyway, but I do use printables. I use in my daily journal, I use people's numbers and days of the week and journaling cards and things like that. Journal spots and other random, I use clip art and things like that too. So, yeah, so I guess in some way I do print I'm doing this one a little bit differently. I said I wasn't going to talk about the actual, what I was making, but I kind of have to, or you see what happens because, I did it upside down. So this one, I just, instead of folding them over the back, I folded them and then as like a gusset and glued them on. So anyway, this is proving to be a little bit more difficult than I had planned. So do you enjoy, I've already done that one. How many journals have you made so far? Well, I just showed you a bunch of them. That was probably not all of them, but it was a bunch of them. And I'm very curious. I'm wondering if well, I did it right. I just, yeah. I obviously just didn't cut these papers right. But that's okay. Now I have a strip of ice cream to use the next time I get ice cream. Let's see. There we go. That'll work. That'll work. like I said, if you want to know how to do these, watch Roxy's Creations, Rachel at Roxy Creations, or at least watch the other video that I made on this, because I did, I'm going to go ahead and glue this one down so I know which one is the top, so I don't accidentally, you know, make that the bottom. So, but all I'm doing is folding them over. This was supposed to be kind of like a no measure kind of thing. When Roxy did it, she, or when Rachel did it, she was just using scraps. And, you know, I did like cut these to fit, so to speak. I did them in a hurry, if you can't tell. And I obviously did not cut them to the right length. The width is fine. The length is a little off. So yeah, I enjoy, even though this bends, it's pretty hard, and that's just a one layer of a cracker box. But by the time you add scrapbook paper to the inside and the outside, it firms it up quite nicely. And I like that. It kind of, gives me the feel of that one first journal that I made. And I quickly realized that that is my preferred size. And which is about, I think, 6.5 by 9 or 9.5. Oh, I missed one. And so, yeah. What do I enjoy? Oh, so how many journals have I made? I would say maybe 30. Perhaps, maybe. I'm thinking that's what my magic number is. This is what I forgot to do on the last one, was to glue these little corners down together, or first, and then put glue on it. That's why you saw me fumbling with the glue on the last one. So this is not a very good crafting video, that is for sure. I watched some people's, and they just talked about their journals. They flipped through their journals and things like that. So I don't think there was that many rules on this. But initially, the lady that started it had said, while you're making some sort of craft, you know, to be talking about your journal history. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. So I've made, say, about 20 to 30 journals. What do you enjoy the most about making journals? I would say, I don't know. I mean, it just opens up all the possibilities, right? It opens up the door for you to put in whatever you want. You're not stuck with what you find at a store. You know what I'm saying? And so it's really very it was very liberating to me when I first discovered, I'm going to go back to Gina at the Rebookery, or now Gina at Stellar J Studios. She helped me see, she did a course on like Find Your Style or whatever, and one of the things that she talked about was the fear of the blank journal. And that was very liberating for me when I figured out that if I could make my own journals, then I also could fix them if I messed them up. You know, or if it didn't have enough paper, I could dictate how many pages go in and in the order in which they go in. And originally, I started off thinking that I needed a planner. And that's honestly how I got into journaling, is because I thought if I could find a planner, the perfect planner, I could organize my life. None of that happened, okay? And I never even so much as made a planner. Because then I went down the bullet journaling rabbit hole, and yeah, that was a heck of a rabbit hole. So yeah, I never ended up making a planner or well, the closest thing to a planner that I have is, and I don't know if I finished this one. In some of these journals, I made what's called like I called it a sticker calendar for a while, but it's not a planner. It's kind of a retro or retrospective. It's in the past, you know. So this is kind of like a table of contents for my journal. So I know on this day I cleaned house. I know on this day I mailed something, or I know on this day I had an appointment, and I can, if I want to know what it was, I can go to that day. So it's more of a table of contents or an index than it is a planner. That was the closest thing to a planner I actually got to make, or that I ended up making. So let's see, what was I doing? I was fixing to glue this one down, right? Yes. And because this is the top, you kind of glue the top down so that it has a little more structure to it when you're sliding things in and out of the pocket. And yeah, so that's how I started. I found, let's see, yeah, so Gina helped me learn how to make a journal. There was a lot of other videos that I watched in that process too, and I can't think of who or what or whatever. But I found myself not as much into the junk journaling, and then I had found Elizabeth at Never Hopeless by Elizabeth. That's not what I meant to do. And I fell in love with that kind of Fauxbonichi style journal. And then I went from there and I found Allison at AJ's Inspired Life. And she inspired me to do kind of what I'm doing now, which is, you know, well, not just the daily journaling, but just making a journal out of, you can still do the daily journal, but you can make it out of whatever, you know, just paper. You can make it out of, you know, I decided to start using the cracker boxes. And, I mean, made that one back in, I started using the cracker boxes back in 21, I think, mid 2021. And so, yeah, that was, but that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. Let's try another one of these that I did upside down, or did I already do it? Maybe I already did it. I love this fluorescent green with these sloths, but I'm not sure why I made these papers as big as I made them. 6 by 5. That's what I did the first time. So I don't know why I'm fumbling so with them. Maybe I just discovered I didn't need as much paper to fold over as I first thought I did. But, so, does this inspire you to either make a journal if you haven't made a journal yet? Does it inspire you to make different style journal? If you have watched many of these videos, you know, perhaps you have found something else that piques your interest. I don't know how many people actually do a daily journal. There's not as many people that do that I have found as that do, you know, there's more people that do junk journaling, or at least make junk journals, than there are people who do daily journals like we do. And maybe just because I haven't found them. There might be plenty of people out there. So if you know of anybody, I would love to, you know, please put their information in the comments. I would love to find more people's videos who do this style journaling. I was inspired this month by, you know, I say this month, I was inspired more than this month, but by Lydia at February and June, who also does a daily journal, but she incorporates other items, not just the plain papers like I was using. And that's what inspired me to try that this month, by putting in the different, you know, different, it's not totally junk journal style, but I did mix up the papers. I didn't just use my scrapbook paper or the white paper. I used, you know, book pages and envelopes and music papers, and well, here's another envelope. Yeah, so I kind of mixed it up this month because I see what she does with that, and I like it. So she definitely inspired this month's journal. And she's the one that inspired me initially, I think, her and Allison, to do the calendar, the collage calendar. Allison and Lydia were the ones that I saw do that. And now there's several other people making them. And so that's always fun, you know, because you know that you inspired somebody to do something. And that makes it more fun. So I think I've answered all the questions. Let's see. Let me look at them real quick. Tag as many people as you want. I'm only going to tag one. One because I only had the chance to talk to one person and get their quote-unquote approval. I appreciated when Laura asked me ahead of time. You know, because I had time to think about it. She just didn't put me on the spot, because if she hadn't asked me ahead of time, I'd already be out of town and wouldn't have time to make this journal for another week, or this video for another week and a half. So I appreciated the heads up on that. And yeah, so I think I covered all the questions. I did not do them in order, so if your head is spinning, I apologize. Because that kind of happens in my world. I tend to make people a little dizzy sometimes. And although I think this video might be my, yeah, most dizzy video. And I thought, well, surely I can craft while talking about my journal journey, because I've gotten used to talking while crafting. That used to be very hard for me, but if you're going to make videos, you kind of have to do that. So I had gotten used to doing that, but apparently if I'm crafting and talking at the same time, I have to, in my brain, be talking about the particular craft that I'm doing. Like, for example, I'm going to tell you why I'm cutting off these corners if you don't already know. It's to eliminate some of the bulk in the fold, and I can do that sort of thing. But apparently I cannot talk about a different topic while I'm crafting. So anyway, I hope that, I mean, if you're, you know, if you're new here, I hope that you enjoyed watching this. I hope that it gave you a little bit of inspiration, or maybe a different style of journaling that you didn't know about. I hope I didn't make you too dizzy. I would love to tell you that all my videos are not, you know, not that way, but that might not be the truth, because I am a little bit of a squirrel. But I like to make people laugh, and that, you know, kind of is, you know, part of my videos too. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy having company while I'm crafting. And yeah, so hopefully I didn't make your head spin too much, that you won't want to come back, because I'd love to have you around here. If you're, you know, if you're new, well, I'd love to have you back even if you're not new. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate y'all watching, and I hope I covered all of the questions in the hashtag My Journal Journey. And again, I'm going to put this here. It's hosted by Bookworms Buddy, and I was tagged by Laura at the Half-Ass Crafter, and I am tagging Kari at the Concrete Butterfly. So give them a look-see. Oh, I want to show you this. Darn, I meant to do this first. Okay, so if you're still with me, this is, my aunt gave me this. My great-grandmother made this. And when my aunt found out that I was making junk journals and what I was doing, she gave me this, or showed me this. And it's the pictorial review of the life of, and that's my grandmother. This was done in 1923. Her birthplace. First photo, early cuteness. This is not her, by the way. This is just images that she found. Childhood pals, her first kid. Oh, no. First hero. That's what it was. And blissful ignorance. This says early lover. Wow, look at him. And she just made up this little story, you know, immigration. They immigrated. This is the passenger list. My grandmother and great-grandmother are on this, and great-grandfather. And my mother's mother immigrated over from, she came over from Italy. And this is, well, this is a Swedish. One of them was Swedish, one of them was Italian. Anyway, I just thought this was so neat. It is starting to, her wedding, motherly advice. See, we moved into color photos here. And, when they get silver hair, golden honeymoon, eventide, her reverie. I'm assuming this is after he passed and she's there to be by herself. I looked at the binding on this and I thought this was neat. I don't know what it's called. Now this is tearing, but it went down the whole, it wrapped around and then has the two loops right here. So I don't know what that's called, but I wanted to look that up because I thought that was so cool. So apparently the junk journal bug or the gene I came by naturally. And I fully intended to show this in the very beginning of the video, and I just totally forgot. So, anyway, I love this, and I'll probably show it in another video by itself, because I just think it's that cool. And so, because that was, what, over 100 years ago now. And so I'm holding somebody's junk journal from 100 years ago, and my great-grandmother. So I thought that was so precious. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this. And I hope that you come back and see me. And I hope that you go give all the people that I mentioned. These are the only ones that I wrote down, but I mentioned a bunch of people. I will try to list them all. And yeah, I hope that you find some new people to watch that you hadn't found before. And I hope that you find some inspiration. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.